Hola woodworkers, Paul Carlson here, Small Workshop Guy. We're in my small workshop today. Today's session, which I'm doing live, that way I don't do any editing, it just gets released to YouTube. Hopefully that format works. Is discussing how I square my mortises and tenons that I did with a router. When you use a router pattern, as I did to create my mortises, so use a big old pattern like this, and I have other videos about how you create these so that you route in here and create your mortises. Those mortises come out obviously with a round edge because you used a router bit and it's round. So if you want them all to be square, then you need to square them off. That's pretty basic, right? But also, you could leave both your tenons round and your mortises round and then do it that way. But my design calls for a nice square look. So once I get these created using patterns, I have to do some work on them. And I got a lot of them. The first thing, let's talk about the mortises. I take a combination square and I put that right on the bottom edge. In this case, I've got triple mortises. Where's my mallet here? I'm sure that sounds great because I got my camera on the table and now I'm pounding on the hold downs. But you'll have to put up with it. So anyway, I put the combination square. I grabbed my 5mm marking lead and I marked right across the edges. All right, that gives me a place to put my chisel. The other option would be to use a marking or a scribing knife and go across those edges, and that would even be better in giving you a little feel for a place to put your chisel. All right, keep your chisels nice and sharp. My favorite chisel by far is my Veritas 1/2 inch. I just find it really, really nice to keep sharp, and it stays sharp for a long time, and it's quick to touch up. So I've already done a couple of these because when you're doing live, you don't get the opportunity to fast forward. And so let me show you a little bit different view. Now, if you catch me looking down below the camera, I've got an iPad that controls the camera view, and I have a bad habit of looking at myself, being egotistical, I guess. So anyway, I got to learn to look at the camera. I'll try to do a better and better job with that. A lot of times I'll be looking at the workpiece anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, so when you're handling a chisel, and you want to get right up near an edge, you don't go right to your line. You want to stay just a 1/16 of an inch or so behind the line for your first plunge. Grab the chisel down at the end. If you hold it up here and you think you're going to place that line down there, that's a long ways from your hand, and the older you get, the shakier your hands get. So grab the chisel down near the end. You get a lot more control that way. And then get right next up to that line. And we are starting for the first time on the good face side. And then after you've gone down there a little bit and relieved some of that stress, then you can go ahead and go right on the line. A technique I like to use is to put my chisel at an angle. Again, I'm holding it down low, get it on the line, and then rotate it up. Being careful not to move it when I rotate it. All right, so that's, don't go all the way through. Just go part of the way through. I'm not sure what all that sound will look like. Then let's do the other side. Same thing, 1/16 of an inch away. Get that going down a little bit. Then move it to your line. Put it at an angle here. Hold it down low. Rotate it up. Or if you used a scribing knife, then you would have a little indentation there to help you. All right, then push that down. Be careful not to go too far. This is cedar. It had a habit of breaking out, kind of like working with styrofoam. Try to get that as square as you can. Don't pound all the way down. We'll do some from the other side. Again, hold it with two hands to get it where you want it. Plunge it, clean it up. Don't worry too much about the cleanup at this point. We'll come back for that. All right, so squared it off from my nice face side. And now I'm going to flip it over and square it off on the side that is not the face. I love these Gramercy hold downs. Doesn't take much pressure with my dog holes anyway. All right, same thing on the other side. Aren't you glad that I'm not doing all of them? I've already pre-done the others, so for video purposes, I'll just do these. I need a little more light on the subject, but I don't want the light to glare in the camera, so we won't do that. All right, get that down partway. Now, I've already come partway through, so I should be able to go down and meet where that was and feel it release. And then clean it up. Nothing magical here. The secret is on your face side to treat that edge on your face side as religiously sacrosanct. In other words, don't touch it. You hopefully created your pattern just perfect, and you got yourself the perfect width of mortise, and you don't want to be altering that, and so stay away from the edges. There's nothing wrong with going beyond the edges and going down inside and carving out the wall. In fact, you may want to do that, because when you put glue on your tenons, they're going to expand, and so you might want to have your walls be a little bit concave, which I like to do. I don't worry too much now about the tear out on the other side. Have a waste board underneath so that it's nice and supported. Don't be working out in the air when you plunge through and you'll tear it out. Have something to support it underneath. Square those off. Don't just keep working and working and working with your chisels. I've got my sharpening station just a few feet away, and kind of after I do a set of mortises, I go back and I touch up. If you touch up frequently, then you don't have to stop and do a major resharpening. So I just go back and touch up, either using my finest grit or using my stroop, my leather stroop. Stroop. You say potatoes, I say potatoes, whatever the right name for it is. Leather stroop, I think. Alright, so you get that mortise cleaned up. The next thing that's a good idea is to get things kind of what I would call sanded off or filed off. Now, I want to know where my face is. This is my face over here. So when using this rasp or this file, I want to tip it so that I'm cleaning the inside out, but I'm staying away from my mortise edges. And get a rasp that has a serrated edge on one edge and smooth on the other edge. So keep that angled so it's staying away from the edge on the face side. It doesn't matter on the opposite side over here. That's going to be blind. And get all those rough edges out of there by using a file. Go over with the serrated edge over onto the right edge and the left edge. You're just trying to remove those little impediments that are going to hang everything up. All right. So that is the mortise. Which way do you move it? This way. So squared mortises. All right. Then we got to have a squared tenon. And so I've got this marked as to which tenon I'm working on. I've already done part of it because I didn't want to do that on camera. So this is, I've got it all marked with which number. So the number 13 here matches number 13 for my mortises. So I know which set of tenons go into which mortises. Because sometimes you're off a little bit, you got to kind of custom fit. So make sure you keep your debris off of your work table or off of your sacrificial platform, because in the soft cedar, when you pound that down, that debris can actually leave dents in your workpiece. So I've already squared off most of this. So let me tell you my technique. There wasn't much technique to squaring off those mortises other than stay away from the edge when you're using that file. But I have a little bit more technique involved with my tenons. And here's what I do. First of all, I lock down my hold downs. All right, I've already squared off these three. So let me show you with this one remaining one what I would do. I'm going to go in and by using the wall, the back wall here, let me give you a close-up. I'm going to push along that wall and sort of get over to where I'm going to square off. What I'm doing is cutting the fibers there. Oop. So I push over and kind of cut the fibers. I like to start on the side. Again, using that chisel down low so I can get it in the right place. And just get yourself a nice square corner. Once you get it started and you have a wall to follow, then go ahead and push down and get the rest of it out. All right, so square that corner. I go in here and I square the other corner. Just get it started. So you got a wall to follow. Square it off. All right, now here comes the real technique or magic, if you will, for my method. It's very difficult to get the tenon to fit inside that mortise in the entire length and to have enough room for glue. So what I like to do is a little extra work on these tenons, kind of shaping them in a certain way. I find if I don't do this, I am often leaving the fat end here much fatter than out here on the tip, or at least somewhat fatter. And you know what? If this fits perfectly and then you're pushing it in and this is fatter, it's going to stop going in and it's not going to seed. It's not going to seed all the way down. So one of the things I do is with a somewhat larger chisel, I come in, and this is the one I'm working on with you guys. It's fatter here definitely than it is out here. So I come in and I take off part of that. Now this is blind, so I actually am not overly concerned if I come in here. Notice how nice and sharp that chisel. If I come in here and I overdo it. In other words, there's nothing wrong with this joint down here being skinnier than where you're pushing through. The wrongness is the other way around. So don't overdo it. You don't want it to be too skinny compared to the other one, but skinny enough that it doesn't get hung up when you push it in. So keep your chisel sharp. Things are nice and easy to do that way. So that's the one thing. Make sure this is smaller than the outside edge. Okay, then the second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to taper the edges here. and the end. When you're trying to get that shoved in, if you got any little ragged edges like I've got right there, that can get hung up and keep you from successfully pushing inside. So now this is going to stick out a little bit through my mortise, and so right about here is going to be my mortise wall. So I don't want to have that be too skinny in this, I guess what I would call area to be protected. So, you know, right about this area here, I don't want to touch the edges. I want them to stay the size they're supposed to be, that they got cut by the router, and therefore fit nice and tight into my mortise. But there's nothing wrong. Fact is, you probably want to put a little camber beyond that point on the edge here. The first thing I do before I do that is I turn my chisel over with the bevel against the wall, and I sever the fibers right down here in the corner. Doesn't have to be a lot. So I sever the fibers. Bevel against the wall, sever the fibers. Okay, then getting beyond this area that I want to leave alone, I shave off a little corner. All I'm trying to do there is have things not resist when I go to put them into the mortise. I don't want things to get hung up. So I'm just allowing a little wiggle room for stuff to fit smoothly during the glue up or during the dry run. The glue up can be more difficult than the dry fit because you're adding moisture and things start swelling. So that's what I do. I taper them, square them off, taper them down at the knuckle, if you will. If this was like a if this was like a toe, I'm tapering it down where the toe is connecting to the foot, so that is smaller than this, and then I'm doing the outside edges. In addition, you don't want this really jagged end point here to be hanging up as you're trying to get it through the mortise. So I take my rasp and pulling this way only. I don't want to push against the grain and break grain up. I just want to just round off that edge or camber that edge just slightly on all sides. Just getting rid of any little jagged things that can catch it up. And then that's how I do that. Let's see if we've got the other side done. I think I might have done it ahead of time. No, I didn't. So bear with me real quickly, and then we'll see if this thing goes together. All right, so that's all trimmed. That's all trimmed there. I want to go in, just break the fibers where I'm trying to square off. Hold it down near the end where I can control it. Just get it started. I've already come at it from the other side, so I don't have to go very far. Hear that styrofoam? My favorite wood to work with for mortise and tenons is maple. I don't like cedar, which I'm using here, and I don't like red oak. But sometimes that's what the piece calls for. So I severed the edge there so that when I slide down here, staying beyond the end point, I don't want to go all the way down. I just start in what would be buried inside of the mortise. Nobody's going to see that I tapered that. Alright, so I got that all tapered now. The other thing you do, just like you did with the mortises, is use your rasp, and this time you don't have to be quite so careful. Stay away from this edge, but use your rasp and get things kind of smoothed up. Alright, and I got all my ends rounded. And that should allow me, if I've cut those properly, to get that to go inside of my mortises pretty nicely and allow for glue power. You don't need to stay for this, but I'm going to do a little test here. So edge 13, edge 13. This is my outside face, and so it would be this way. Let's put her down there. You're not going to be able to see that on camera. And it looks like it's going to fit. When you're working with cedar, be really careful. Have a soft hammer that doesn't mar the face, or use a block of wood. All right, so nice and tight. There's a design purpose to this one being shorter. So nice and tight here. I do have little gaps here, and I knew I would have because I put this through a thickness planer one too many times, made this narrower than my pattern, and so I have some plans for how to fix that. So that is how you trim your tenons and your mortise, and that's all I'm going to cover in this session. I don't know how long that was. Let me see if, since I'm live, skip the trial, sign in my channel. Got live chat. Don't think I see any chats. So we'll, maybe I'm looking at something wrong. We'll end it there. Small workshop guy. I'll probably trim off the end of this and maybe the beginning, but anyway, small workshop guy. I hope that gave you some tips about shaping those tenons so that they will fit when you go to do that dry fit. If you want to make them absolutely perfect every time, it'll take you a lot longer. You'll be sanding, you'll be filing, you'll be driving yourself crazy. But if you've got OCD and that's the way you like them to fit, then good luck when you do your glue up. I mean, leave yourself a little extra wiggle room for your glue because it will expand, particularly soft wood. Small workshop guy, hope you're safe in your workshop. Signing off.